1. The Beggar and the Buddha, a lesson in gratitude. Sometimes, the most precious offering is not what you give, but how you give it. This is the story of a man who had nothing, yet gave everything from the depths of his heart. Long ago, in a poor little village, there lived a beggar who struggled to survive. Homeless and alone, he wandered from place to place, living on the rare kindness of strangers. Each morning, waking beneath an old tree, he wondered if he'd have anything to eat that day. The sun scorched his skin by day, and the cold winds chilled his bones at night. His body was emaciated, skin clinging to bones. His clothes were ragged, patched with scraps, barely shielding him from the breeze. His bare feet were cracked and bloodied from countless falls. And yet, deep within his heart, still glowed a spark of hope, a flicker of faith and reverence for goodness. One morning, as he stumbled through a nearby forest, weak from hunger, he heard a deep, calming voice echoing through the trees. It was the Buddha, teaching Dharma to a gathering of villagers. That voice seemed to soothe every ache in his soul. His heart stirred, as if he had discovered the last light at the end of a long, dark road. The villagers had gathered, bringing fine offerings, pure rice, fresh lotus flowers, and sweet cakes. But in the beggar's trembling hand was only a bruised, nearly rotting banana, the only thing he had found beneath a tree after a stormy night. He looked at the banana, then at the Buddha. The Buddha's eyes were gentle, radiant like stars, full of compassion. The beggar's whole body trembled, not from fear, but from a deep reverence that choked his heart with emotion. Step by hesitant step, he walked forward, as if carrying the weight of his entire life with him. Though the banana was worthless, he lifted it with both hands, raising it to his forehead as though it were a sacred gem. The Buddha looked at him, smiled radiantly, and received the offering with both hands, his gaze full of unconditional love. As the banana rested in the Buddha's hands, the whole space fell silent. His eyes calmly swept over the crowd and paused on the beggar still bowing in devotion, his eyes filled with tears, his heart trembling like a leaf in the wind. The Buddha slowly raised the banana and spoke in a voice as soft and warm as spring rain. Among all the precious offerings today, one surpasses them all. Turning to the villagers, he continued, "It is not gold, nor flowers, nor cakes, but this banana, given with a pure heart and complete faith." He stepped down toward the beggar, gently helping him rise with a look filled with loving kindness. This man may have nothing but a spoiled fruit, yet he has given everything. His heart is free from pride and full of sincerity. That is the true merit. The crowd stood silent. Some bowed their heads in shame. Others closed their eyes, tears falling quietly. In that moment, all distinctions, rich or poor, high or low, melted away in the radiant compassion of the enlightened one. The beggar stood still, tears tracing the deep lines of his weathered face. But now they were no longer tears of suffering, but tears of a soul that had finally been warmed after years in the cold. He bowed deeply once more. Though he said nothing, his eyes shone with clarity. The sorrow and shame were gone. In their place was peace, light, and a quiet joy, like the morning sun rising over a silent mountain. As he walked away from the Dharma gathering, his steps were no longer weary drags. They were light, as if he had cast off a burden he'd carried all his life. He was no longer walking to beg, but walking toward purpose. He had found his path. He knew he was no longer alone in this world. Behind him, the Buddha watched with eyes full of love. He said nothing more, but his gentle smile planted a seed of liberation in the beggar's heart. That day, every soul present took home a deep truth. Sincerity is the true treasure, faith is the path, and gratitude is the doorway to inner peace. The sky turned bluer, the forest breeze grew gentle, and a man who once stood at the edge of despair had begun a new journey toward the light, led by the awakening of his own heart. 2. The Brahmin woman and the bowl of leftover rice. Healing Buddhist story. Have you ever felt too small to offer something meaningful? This story reveals that a sincere heart weighs more than gold. In the eyes of the world, a bowl of leftovers has no value, but under the compassionate gaze of the Buddha, it holds the entire universe of love and awakening. Sometimes, it's the smallest things that transform a life, not through riches, but through the gentle power of the heart. Long ago in ancient India, there lived a poor Brahmin woman. Her husband had died young, her children had left, and she lived alone in a torn hut at the edge of the village. Each day, she begged for a handful of rice, just enough to survive. But more painful than her hunger was the sense that she had nothing left to offer, not to life, not to others, and certainly not to the sacred. One morning, news spread through the village. "The Buddha is coming! Prepare offerings!" The villagers were joyful. They prepared fruits, sweets, golden lotuses, incense, anything precious to honor the enlightened one. The woman panicked. She had nothing but a small bowl of cold, leftover rice, grains stuck together, touched by dust and time. She hesitated, ashamed. Would the Buddha even accept such a meager gift? But something stirred in her heart. With trembling hands, she cleaned the bowl, warmed the rice as best she could, and set out, barefoot, to find the Buddha. Under the bodhran tree, the Buddha sat surrounded by people. Gifts piled before him, jewels, golden bowls, honeyed cakes. The poor woman approached slowly, her head bowed, holding her bowl tightly. Some laughed, mocking, "What is she doing here with leftovers?" But the Buddha looked up and smiled. He stood, walked to her, and accepted the bowl with both hands. "This rice," he said gently, though simple, was given with humility, love, and sincerity. It shines brighter in this moment than all the gold offered today. The crowd fell silent. He turned to everyone and said, "Generosity is not measured by wealth. A heart that gives from love, no matter how poor, holds the greatest power." Tears rolled down the woman's cheeks, not from shame, but from healing. For the first time in years, she felt seen, valued, and whole. From that day on, she came daily to listen to the Buddha's teachings. She learned that the worth of a person is not in their possessions, but in their actions, their thoughts, and their heart. The story of the leftover rice bowl became legend, symbolizing the truth that no one is too poor to give, and no gift is too small when given with sincerity. Years later, when the woman passed, the monks placed a small wooden bowl at the foot of a bodhran tree in her memory, a simple symbol of boundless compassion. Her story is still told today, not as a tale of poverty, but as a testament to inner wealth, the kind that feeds the soul and lights the world. Let this be your reminder. Even if all you have is a smile, a kind word, or a moment of presence, it can change someone's life. True healing begins with a giving heart. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing to our channel. Join us as we explore more timeless Buddhist teachings that nourish the soul and guide us toward peace. Subscribe now and be part of a journey into wisdom, compassion, and healing. The Drum Bowl and Gratitude, English translation. The The Drum Bowl and Gratitude, a Healing Story. Script. Sometimes, the most precious thing is not what we have, but the heart we bring with us. An empty bowl can be full of love if it is offered with sincerity. Only when we let go of the feeling of lack can we realize the wealth that already exists within us. In a small village near the forest, where the land was barren and life was hard, the people still found solace in the compassion of the Buddha whenever he visited. Each time he came, they prepared food, fruits, fresh flowers, and scented candles, everything they treasured most, to offer in reverence. In that village lived a young orphan boy named Tisha. He lived alone, in poverty, and had nothing but an old, chipped wooden bowl. When news of the Buddha's arrival spread, the villagers busied themselves with preparations. Tisha too wished to attend, but he hesitated. "I have nothing to offer. My bowl is empty." Tisha stood in the market watching others buy fruits, sweets, and lotus flowers. He quietly walked away, holding his empty bowl in his hands, tears silently falling. An old woman saw him and asked kindly, "Where are you going with that empty bowl, child?" The boy replied, "I'm going to see the Buddha, but I have nothing to give." She looked at him gently and smiled. Sometimes, the most beautiful thing is not material. It is the heart we carry. Beneath the Bodhran tree, the Buddha was giving a sermon. The villagers sat in silence, listening intently. Each person brought their finest offerings to lay before him. Tisha timidly approached, knelt down, and offered his empty bowl. The crowd murmured. Some scoffed. He brought an empty bowl to meet the Buddha? But the Buddha reached out, accepted the bowl, looked at the boy with kindness, and said, "This empty bowl is full of sincerity. It is light in material, but heavy in spirit. Tisha has not given food, but he has offered his whole heart." He turned to the crowd and said, "Many believe they can only give when they have enough. But in truth, gratitude and generosity are not about quantity. They come from the heart when giving." The empty bowl that Tisha brought is filled with humility, a longing for wisdom, and a deep wish to walk the path. That is a greater gift than any material offering. The Buddha gently placed his hand on Tisha's head and blessed him. Suddenly, the villagers understood. One person stepped forward and placed sweets in the boy's bowl. Another added fruit. Before long, the empty bowl was overflowing with love. From that day, Tisha was invited to stay and study with the Buddha's disciples. He learned, to give is not to lose. When the heart opens, we too are healed. A grateful heart doesn't need much to feel fulfilled. A sharing hand doesn't need wealth to be noble. And from that once empty bowl, Tisha found not only love and acceptance, but also himself. He became a respected monk, known for teaching gratitude, humility, and the middle way. The story of the empty bowl has been passed down through generations as a symbol of spiritual wealth, that we need not wait to have full hands to begin giving kindness. The empty bowl, a symbol of sincerity, an open heart ready to receive light and offer love. You don't need to have everything, just enough heart to begin.